Good morning, everyone. Are you able to hear me? Okay. Let's start the session again. In the last class, we have finished with the chapter number 9. That is whenever we see Java or how we can use the looping that the three types of looping that we have discussed in the last class. That is the while loop, and the for loop. Now, let's continue with the next chapter, that is chapter number 10, Java decision making. How we can take the decisions in the Java, like in the C and the C++. There are two statements by which we can take the decision in the Java. That is the if statement and the switch statements. So I'm talking about why Java decision making. That is how to make the decision, or how to take the decision in the Java programming language. That is Java decision making. And there are two types of decision making statements in Java. What are the two statements that is given? One is a if statement, one is a switch statement. Now let's see what is the if statement. That consists of a Boolean expression. So whenever we use the Boolean expression, that is used by one or more statement, that is used by one or more we can say the lines, that is known as the if statement, that uses the Boolean expression. What is the Boolean expression? That is a statement that condition may be a scenario, that condition may be a numeric, that condition may be a string. That is a Boolean expression. So it consists of the Boolean expression that is followed by one or more statements. Now let's see what is the syntax of a statement. This is the syntax of an if statement that is given. If Boolean expression. Now that means if the condition is true, then the statement will execute only when the condition is true. Otherwise, the statement does not execute. So if Boolean expression, statement will execute in the Boolean expression. Now, if the Boolean expression is valued to the true, then the block of the code inside the if statement will be executed. So see that we have studied about in the last class. That is, if the condition is true, then only the statement will be executed. If it is not true, then the first set of the code will end after the if statement, after the curly braces. Now, let's see how to use a if statement. This starts with the public class test. So this is one of the example of the if statement. So it starts with the public class test. So name of the class is test and it is a public. Now there are three types of visibility modes that we will discuss. One is a public, one is a private, one is a protected. Public means that is shared by or that can be used by any of the class. That may be a friend class, that may be even any one of the class that is used in this class. In the next line, it is given as a public static void main, the same line that is used for the Java programs. So this shows that this is a Java program, not a C and a C++ program. So public static void main string args, that is the argument, whatever the argument, that may be an int type, that may be a float type, that may be a double type, any of the type argument can be used in this statement. Now, after this, there is a variable that is declared. What is the variable name? That is a x. We are assigning the value of the 10 into the x, and then it is terminated by the semicolon. Now, till here, any doubts? Because this is the same as we discussed in the last class. Any doubts, anyone till here? That is using the first, taking the class test, then using the same statement, that is public static void main, then initialize a variable that is a x and putting the value of the 10 into the x. Remember, each and every statement is terminated by a semicolon. Now, next one is a if. Checking for the if statement using the if statement. If x is less than 20, that means checking the condition if x is less than 20 or not. It is less than 20, not equals to 20. So it goes from the 10, then 11, then 12, 13, 14 till 19, not 20. Why? Because it is less than 20, not less than equals to 20. So it checks for the 10 first of all, because x value at the initial state is the 10. Then system.out.print. It is showing for the printout, or it is showing for the display on the screen, that is done by the system.out.print. Then the statement is given, this is if statement. Then curly braces close, curly braces close, curly braces. Now, this is very important program, or this we can say this is a tricky program. Why? Because we are not we are not showing the values of the variable. We are only showing the statement, that is this is if statement, this is if statement, this is if statement. How many times it will execute? It will execute for the 10 times. Why? Because it starts with the 10, it ends with the 90. So this is one of the example of the if statement. Next one is if else. That is, if the condition is true, then the statement will execute. If the condition is not true, that is a false, then another statement is executed. That is represented within the else part. That is, an if statement can be followed by an optional else. There is no mandatory to use the else statement. Why? Because if the condition is true, then there is no requirement of the else statement. It can be followed by the optional else statement, which executes when the Boolean expression is false. This is the syntax of the if else. If Boolean expression, then there is a curly braces, executes when the Boolean expression is true, otherwise is represented by the else. Then again curly braces will be start. So this will be one curly braces for the statement when the statement is true. Then there is a else part, then executes when the Boolean expression is false. Then again curly braces will be closed. So if Boolean expression, that is a condition, there is a curly brace, whatever the statement that we want to write when the condition is true, then there is a else part, then again the curly brace will be start, again there is a statement when the condition is false, and again curly brace will be closed. This is the syntax of the if else statement. Now let's see the program for the if else statement, how if else works. First of all, there is a public class test. The same class will be declared in this each and every example in Java program, in this module, in this PDF. The same class will be used. That is a test class, and that is of the public type. We can change the name of the class. That we can take the class as an array. We can take the class as a Java, anything, sample, sports, whatever the name that you want. Then public static void main string args, same line. Now we are declaring the value of the x is 30. It is not 10. We are initializing the 30 value into the, or we are putting the 30 value into the x. Check for the condition if x is less than 20. Now, what is the value of the x? That is 30. 30 is less than 20. Condition is not true. Then it will go to the upper part, or that it will go to the next part. That is the else part. Why? Because the condition is not true. That is a false. This will go into the next part. That is in the else part. That is system.out.print. This is else statement. If the condition is true, this will print this one. That is, this is if statement. If the condition is false, this is printing. That is this is else statement. So here the condition is not true. That is false. So next statement will be executed. That is the else statement will be executed. This is else statement. This is the output of this else statement. This program is clear to each and everyone. This is nothing new, but the same as the if statement. The main difference is that in the if statement, there is only one part, there is only one statement that we are using, that is for the true value. Now, if there is a false value, we are using, or we are initializing one more concept, that is the else part. So there are two parts in the if. One is the if part for the true, one is the if part for the else. Nothing else. Everything is same. The rules are same, that is, it is terminated by the semicolon. We are initializing the value by using the variable, by using the data type. Everything is same, but the new concept is that there is the usage of the else statement. Next is if else, if else. That means we are using the two, or we can say more than one if else statement. So that can be followed by an optional if else statement. So if there is a requirement of the if else statement within the else part, we can use them. For example, if I'm using that if the statement, if x is less than 20, for example, and we are initializing the value as a 30, the same previous example, in the else part, we are again giving the condition, again check for the x value if it is less than 10 or not. So that is represented within the else part, there is a if else. So that is known as the nested if, or we can say if else, if else, if else. So when we're using the if else statement, there are a few points to keep in mind. So there are a few rules regulation that is keep in mind. The first one is that an if can never 0 or 1 else, and it must come after any else if. And it can have a 0 to many else, and it is not used, or it is not coming before the else part. And once the else is used, when the else is succeeded, none of the remaining else will be tested. This is the syntax of the if else part. The first part is saying if the Boolean expression is true. So if Boolean expression 1, then executes when the Boolean expression 1 is true, else. If the Boolean expression, that is the next condition will be true, then only the second part will be executed. Else if Boolean expression 3, then it will execute when the Boolean expression 3 is true. Then again there is a else, executes when none of the condition is true. So these are the three conditions that is given. Expression 1, expression 2, that is Boolean expression 1, Boolean expression 2, Boolean expression 3. If none of them are true, that is if none of the condition is true, then the else part Last one else part will be executed. That is, we can say the first part, or we can say that none of the condition will be true. This is the syntax. Now let's see the example. The same example, the same class will be used, that is a public class test. Then public static void main string args. We are initializing the value, we are getting the value, we are taking the value of the x as a 30. Check for the first condition. If x is equals to 10, that means we are using the equality sign, we are using the double equals to for checking the condition, for checking the equality. So 30 is equals to 10. Condition is not true. It will not go over here. That is, the first part is not executed. Then go for the next part. Here x is equals to 20. Here also condition is not true because the x value is 30 and we are checking for the equality with that 20. Next, go for the next else part. Next part is x is 10. X is 30. Now condition is true. 30 is equals to 30. Yeah, 30 digit is equal to 30 digit. So it will print the value of the x is 30. For example, if it is not true in all the three cases, then the last statement will be executed. That is, this is else statement. But in this example, the third statement will be true. Why? Because 30 is equals to 30. So the output will be value of the x is 30. Now let's see value of the x is 30. This is the output. Now let's see for the curly braces. Whatever the curly braces we are open, we have to close that curly braces. Here one curly brace will be open. Here one curly brace will be open. Over here, this is for the one curly brace, this will close over here. This is the last part, this is closed over here. This is the starting phase of this curly brace, this is the closing phase of this curly brace. Then for the else part, this is the starting curly brace and this is the closing curly braces. Then this is the starting for this else part, this is the closing of this else part. This is the curly brace for the else part, this is the closing of this one. Now this is the closing of this public static void main string args, and this is the closing of this main base class, that is the class test. So if I'm opening for the 5 times curly brace, so we have to close for the 5 times, otherwise the error will arise. So this is one of the programs that shows how to use the if else, if else, if else. So there are multiple statements, or we can say 2 or 3 statements that will be executed. So we can use 3 statements by using the else if, else if, else if. Next part is nested if else statement. So it is always legal to nest if else statement. So we can use the if else in the nested part. What is the meaning of the nested? That is inside of another one, that is known as nest if else statement, which means you can use if or else if. That means you can use one or if or else if statement inside the curly brace and inside the if statement or else if statement. Now, what is the syntax for this one? Syntax for the nested if else is as follows. If boolean expression 1, then there is a curly brace, executes when a boolean expression is true. If boolean expression 2, that is the condition is true, then executes when the boolean expression 2 is true. This is for the first part, this is for the second part. Here, one curly brace will be open, this is closed over here. Next curly brace, this is closed over here. That means we are using the nested if in this one. You can nest else if also in the similar manner as we use in the if. So we can put if within the if, we can put else within the else. This is one of the example of the if public class test, public static void main string args, int x equals to 30, int y equals to 10. So we are initializing 2 values, one is the x or one is the y. So we are using 2 variables. X has given the value as a 30, that is the initialized value, that is the starting value, and y is given as a value, that is a 10. Then again, checking for the condition, if x is equals to 30, yeah, condition is true, 30 is equals to 30. Then go for the y, again check for the y condition. If y equals to 10, yeah, again the condition is true, y is or 10 is equals to 10, then simply print the line x equals to 30 and y equals to 10. But in this case, if the condition is not true for the second day, then the statement will not execute. Then this statement, that is system.out.print, will not execute over here, and this line is not printed over here, that is x equals to 20, 30 and y equals to 10. So this is mandatory that both the conditions, both the if statement will be true only when only then the condition or only then the output will be displayed. This is the output, x equals to 10, 30 and then y equals to 10. So these are the multiple forms of the if statement that we have discussed. One is the simple if, one is the if else, one is the if else if, next is the nested if or the nested if else. Now let's see again the various forms of the if else. This is the starting of the if statement, that is the basic. If the condition is true, statement will execute within the curly braces. Then in the next part, that is the if else, if the condition is true, then statement will execute otherwise. Otherwise is represented by the else part. Else executes when the Boolean expression is false. If else, that is we are using the one more if in the else part, that is known as the if else. The nested if else, that means we are using the if within a if, else within a else. That is a nested if else statement. Next part is a switch statement, that is the next part. So let's take a look on this if statement. If there is any doubts, you can ask the doubts right now. Take for the or look for the if statement. Now, any doubts, anyone in the if statement? Okay, so let's move to the next statement, that is a switch statement. So there are two statements in the decision making. We have covered with the one statement, that is a if. Next one is switch statement, that allows a variable to be tested for equality against a list of the values. So in the if statement, we have studied or we have seen that there are multiple if statements, there are multiple variables that is declared, but there is only one statement that is executed. But in this statement or in this switch statement, that allows a variable to be tested for a multiple or n number of or a list of the values. And every value is known as a case, and the variable being switched is checked for each case. So that is checking for the each case whether the case is true for the variable. For example, if I'm giving that int x equals to 30, then case 1 is x 30 is equals to 20. Next case is 30 is equals to 10. Next case is 30 is equals to 30. So there are three cases, that is we are checking for the equality against a list of the values in the switch statement. So if there is in an assignment, if there is a question arises, what is our statement or which is the statement that is used when there are n number of options, when there are multiple options? So your answer is switch. Why? Because it executes for a variable containing or it checks for equality against a list of the values. And what is a condition or which is a condition that is used for only single value? That is a if. Right. So let's see for the syntax for the switch statement. This is the syntax for this switch statement. Switch expression. This is very similar to the Boolean expression, that is a condition. Then case, this is a whatever the words that is given in the blue font, that is a keywords, that means they are same. And the value, that is a black color, black font, that means we can change any value. So case 1, for example, then there are multiple statements. And remember, it is using the colon after the case 1. Then there is a statement. And after that, there is a break. After the break, there is a semicolon. So for example, case 1, statement, break, semicolon. Then case 2, then again statements, whatever the statement that I want to execute. Then again there is a break, then there is a semicolon, and you can have n number of or any number of case statements. But at last we are using the default. That is, if out of these cases none of the condition will be true, then go for the default. Then default, there is a colon, then there is a statement, then curly brace will be closed. So switch expression, case value, that is a case 1, statement, break, case 2, break, case 3, break, case 4, then statement, break, case 5, then statement, break. Then at last there is a default, that is optional. We can give, we cannot give. It's up to my choice, but it's my advice to all of you that please give this default, because if the none of the case will be executed, then go for the default value. If you are not considering the default in your program, that shows the garbage value. That is not correct for the program. That is not correct for any of the program. This is one of the error, we can say the syntactic error, that is applicable only for the good programmers. Now these are the various tools that we can apply to a switch statements. So whatever the variable that we are using in the switch statement can be of the type int, short, char, byte. That is not of the type boolean, that is not of the type double, that is not of the type float. But we are using the variable in a switch statement that is of the type byte, short, int, or char. You can have any number of case statements within a switch. It's not mandatory that we are using only 5 statements or 5 cases, 2 cases, 3 cases. No, that is not mandation. That is not any there is no any provision. There is no any rule regulation for using the different case statements. So you can have any number of the case statements within a switch, and each case is followed by the values to be compared and a colon. So each case to be followed by the value. That means case per. Then there is a colon after the case value. Next is the value of the for the case must be of the same data type as a variable in the switch. So this is of the same type as a variable we are giving in the switch, and it must be a constant or a literal. So whatever the value that is given, that is a constant value or a literal value. Next rule is that when the variable being switched on is equals to the case, the statement following that case will execute until a break statement is given. So it's mandatory to give the break statement after each and every case. Why? Because how the computer knows, how the Java program knows where it terminates. So it will go with the different cases, and it will print the values of different cases if the break statement is not used. So it's one of the main concept in the switch. It's one of the main rule that we are using the break value. We are using the break statement after each and every case. When a break statement is reached, the switch terminates. That means one case will be terminates, and the flow of the control jump to the next line following the switch statement. So when a break statement is reached, the switch terminates automatically and the flow of the control jump to the next line following the switch statement. So whatever the next line that is using the switch statement, that will jump to the next line, that will jump to the next case. Not every case needs to contain a break, but if the no break appears, that flow of the control will fall through the subsequent cases until a break is reached. This is the same line as I told you that if the break is not used, it will go to the multiple cases. So it's advisable to use the break statement after each and every case. Switch statement have an optional default case. This is the optional default case which must appear at the end of the switch. So we are not using the default value in between the cases. We are using the default value at the end of the switch. And the default value can be used for performing a task when none of the cases is true. So if none of the condition is true, none of the case is true, then only the default value will occur. No break is needed in the default case. Now look over here. There is no break over here in the statement. Why? Because there is no mandation to use the break. This is the last statement, and if the last statement is executed, then there is a semicolon. So this automatically breaks the looping. This automatically breaks the statement. So there is no requirement for the break. But if we are giving the break, then there is no harmful for giving the break in the default statement also. So these are the various tools that we can apply to a switch statement. First one is we can use any number of variables. We can use any type of variable that is using the 3 parts that is using the variables in a switch statement. That can be a byte, then that can be a short, then int or char. And you can have n number of n number of case statements within a switch. Then whatever the value that is given, that is represented by, that is used with the colon. And we are using the break statement within the case of after every case, and there is a semicolon for the break. And when the break statement is reached, the switch terminates and the flow of the control jump to the next line. Not every case needs to contain the break, but if the no break is appear, so the flow of the control will go to the subsequent cases. Then at last, we are using the default statement that is used or that appears at the end of the switch. So this is one of the example of the switch statement. Public class test, then public static void main string args. The same class will be used, the same name of the class, that is a test. The same line, that is for the pet for the Java programs. Public static void main string args, that is the arguments. Then cat grade. We are using the variable as a grade, that is storing the values of the argument 0, then dot caret 0. So, showing for the or using for the statement expression that is a grade. So we are checking for the condition for the grade. Now, if there is a case that is a, then it will print excellent. If the user is giving as a B or the C, then it is well done. Then either D, then you passed. Then F, better try again. Then after this, there is a default. that is invalid grade. So if the user is giving G, for example, or J, so the next value that is printed is a default value, that is an invalid grade. Then system.out.println is your grade is plus grade. So whatever the grade that we are showing, that is used for grade. So case 1, system.out.println, that is excellent. Then break statement, that means breaking the value. Then again next case, again there is a single quotes for the character, because it is giving the character, there is no string, it is a character, so it is showing in the single quotes. Then there is a colon. Then case C, then again it is showing in the single quotes, then there is a colon. Then system.out.println, that is a well done. Then break statement. Go for the next case, again using for the println, for printing purpose, you passed. Then go for the next case, that is a case F. Then system.out.println, better try again. Then break, then default, then system.out.println, that is invalid grade. Then the semicolon or the curly brace will be closed over here. So this is one of the switch statement that is occurred. That starts with this curly brace and ends with this curly brace. So this is a block of the switch statement. It starts with this one, that is the switch grade. After this, there is a starting of the curly brace, and there are multiple cases over here, and at last there is a default case. Case 1, case B, C, then case A, then case B, then case C, then case D, F, and at last there is a default case. And this is the closing of this switch statement. And the next line is, last line is the grade is, that is showing the values. This is the output. Java test A, invalid grade. Why? Because the default value is given over here. Your grade is A. Then Java test A, this is excellent. Because first of all, it is showing for the 0, then it is showing for the A. Then Java test C, well done. This is a well done, that is given in the case C. Then your grade is C. So this is a simple program that shows for the switch statement, that how switch statement will be used. Now come to the next chapter, that is chapter number 11. So we have finished with the chapter number 10, that is a decision making. In this there are two parts, one is the if, one is the switch. If statement is used, there are multiple parts of if statement. If the condition is true, then the statement will execute. And there are multiple parts, like there is a if else, else if, nested if, that is for the if statement. Switch means when we have a multiple cases, when we have a multiple equality cases, we can test n number of cases against a list of the value that is represented by a case. That is a switch statement. Let's move to the next chapter, that is chapter number 11, Java number. And this is a lengthy chapter as compared to the last previous 10 chapters. So let's continue with the chapter number 11, Java numbers. Normally when we work with the numbers, we use primitive numbers or primitive data types. Remember, we have studied in the second chapter what are the various data types like primitive, non-primitive. So when we talk about the Java numbers, it's always using it always use the primitive data type, such as a byte, such as int, log, double, etc. For example, int I equals to 5000, then float GPA equals to 13.65, then byte mask equals to OAFX. This is one of the diagrams for the numbers we are using. That is, I is storing the value of the 5000, then float GPA is storing the value of the 13.65. Now, my question is to Joseph, to you, that why we are giving the decimal points in the float values? Why we are not giving in the integer value? The main reason is that float takes the decimal values in any one of the programming language, and it is only reserved for the decimal places. And float takes 4 bytes in the memory. And int is used for the integer value. We can say the integers value that is used for the Java programming, or that is used in the C or the C++ programming, and it reserves 2 bytes in the memory. It bytes, not bits. What is the main difference between the bytes and the bits? Bits is a 0 and the 1, and bytes is the collection of the bits that contains 8 bits. So int takes 2 bytes, float takes 4 bytes. The next one is we are using the data type that is a byte, that takes only 1 byte in the memory. Then mask, name of the variable is marks, and we are giving as a byte 0xAF. So however, in development, we come across a situation where we need to use the objects instead of the primitive data types. In order to achieve this, Java provides the wrapper classes for each primitive data types. Now, this is a new concept as compared to the C and the C++. So please focus on attention with these, with starting of this chapter, that is chapter number 11. Till now, till chapter number 10, everything is same, like looping. There is a difference in the syntax only. But in this chapter, or from this chapter, everything is new for the Java programming. So each and every wrapper classes, that may be an integer, that may be a long, that may be a byte, double, float, short. That are the subclasses of the abstract class. This is the diagram. If you remember this diagram, we have studied this diagram in the chapter number 9 also. Number that is divided into the 5 parts. So sorry, 6 parts. One is a byte, then there is an integer, double, float, short, and the long. So number is of any of the category when we are using the Java program. That may be the byte, that may be of the double, that may be of the float, integer, short, and the long. And this wrapping is taken care of by the compiler, and the process is known as the boxing. So whenever we are using the wrapping, that is take care of the compiler, and that process is known as the boxing. When a primitive is used, when a primitive data type is used, when an object is required, the compiler boxes the primitive type in its wrapper class. Similarly, the wrapper unboxes the object to a primitive as well, and number is a part of the java.language package. So we are using the, we have to use for this package in the Java program, that is java.language, that is lang package. This is the one of the program, or that is the example that shows how the boxing and the unboxing will be used. This is the same program. There is the same class name, that is public class test, then curly braces, public static void main string args. Again there is a curly braces, starting curly braces, integer x equals to 5. So we are using the integer, that is using the value or storing the value of the 5 into the x. Then x equals to x plus 10. That unbox the integer to a unbox means, first of all, we are storing the values in the integer type, that is integer x equals to 5. Then we are using x equals to x plus 10. That means whatever the box we are using, whatever the wrapper we are using, we are unwrapping the contents, we are unwrapping the font values or decimal values into values, that is x plus 10, that stores in the x. Then system.out.println, so showing the value of the x, that is x plus 10, that is 5 plus 10, 15. Because we are initializing the value of the x will be 5, then it is incremented by 10. Now the value becomes 15, so it will show the output, it will show on the screen, that is a 15. This will produce the result 15. And when x is assigned the integer value, we are assigned the integer value, boxing will be done because x is an integer object. Later x is unboxed because we are adding the integer. The same when we are using these concepts, so means we are wrapping the content, and when we use any number of decimals, any number of string, and any number of the integer value, when we are adding, subtracting, that means if we are performing any calculations with these multiple types, these multiple numbers, that means unboxing or the unwrapping. So in this case, in the first line, we are boxing into the integer object, we are wrapping into the integer object. In the next line, we are adding the value by the 10, that means we are unboxing the integer to the int. Now, what are the various methods that we are using? That is, what are the various instance methods of the function that all the subclasses or each and every subclass of the number class implements? First one is xxx value. So that converts the value of this number into the xxx data type and return it. Hello. So the first number method that is used is the xxx, then the value function. So this converts the value of this number object into the xxx data type and return it. The next one is a compare to. When we want to compare the different object into the arguments, that is used with the compare to function. So that compares this number object into the arguments. Then for the equality sign, as we check in the if function, there is a equal functions, equals. Now remember, this is the keyword. If I write equal, that gives an error. So this is the equals function. This parenthesis shows that this is the function that is equal, that determines whether this number object is equal to the argument or. Then value of, that returns an integer object holding the value of the specified primitive. That's the value of function. Then toString, that returns a string object representing the value of a specified int or integer, that is toString. For example, if I want to convert the string, or if I want to convert one number into the string value, that is converted by the, or that is used by the a toString function. Then parseInt, that is used to get the primitive data type of a certain string. Then if I want to show the absolute value, that is without any decimals, without any fractions, we are showing for the absolute values, that is done by the function, that is done by the method, that is a ABS. Then ceil function, the same that we have studied in the MS Excel. If the smallest number, or if the that returns the smallest integer, that is greater than or equals to the argument, returned as a double value. Then floor, that returns the largest integer. Ceil means that gives the smallest integer. Floor returns the largest integer, that is less than or equals to the argument. Again, it is showing as a returning as a double. Now, my question is to Larry, how many bytes the double will store in the memory? Hello, are you able to hear me? How many bytes will be occupied by double in the memory? That's correct. It covers 8 bytes in the memory. The next is a floor. It also returns the largest that we have covered. Then rint. One is the int, this is the rint. That shows the closest value. For example, if there is a 4.599999, so that gives the value as a 4.5 or 4.6. That returns a integer value that is very closest to the argument. It is also returned as a double value. Then round function, that returns the closest long or int as indicated by the method return value to the argument. That is a round function. Then main function, round is same as we studied in the round of in Excel functions. Then main function, that returns the minimum value out of the given argument. Suppose there are 5 values that is given, it returns the smallest of the 2 arguments or the multiple arguments. Then max function, that returns the larger of the 2 arguments, that is the max value, maximum value. Exponent, this is related to the exponent and the mantissa part of the natural logarithms that is used. Then log function, that returns the natural logarithm. For example, if I am using log 10, it shows the values as a 1 or the 0, whatever the log 10 value that is available in the natural log table. Then power function, that returns the values of the first argument raised to the power of the second argument. Next is square root function. As you see that these functions are very similar that we have studied in the MS Excel. SQRT function, that returns the square root of the arguments. Then sine, this is the trigonometric function that returns the sine value of the specified, we can say the degree. For example, if I write sine 30 degree, that gives the value as a 1 by 2. And it gives in a double value that takes 8 bytes in the memory. Then next is a cosine value of the double, or cosine value of the specified value, or the we can say specified degree. Then 10, the tangent value. Then a sine, that is the arc of the sine. Then a cos, that is the arc of the cosine. Then a tan, that is the arc of the tangent. These are the trigonometric functions. Then a tan 2, that converts the rectangular coordinates into the polar coordinates and return the theta. Then 2 degree, that converts the argument into the degrees, into the 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree or 90 degree, that is 2 degrees. Then 2 radians, that converts the argument into the radian values. Then random function, that returns a random number. So it returns any random function that is. So these are the 27 functions that is used in the Java numbers. First is xxx value, then compare to, that compares the numbers, then equals to or equals, that check for the equality, then value of, then toString, parseInt, absolute value, ABS function, ceil value, that is used to return the smallest integer, then floor function, largest integer, rint, then round function, min function, max function, exponent function, that is showing the power of the argument. Then log function, that shows the natural log value of the argument. Then power function, POW, square root, sine, cos, that is a cosine, tangent, that arc sine, that arc cosine, then arc tangent, then a tan 2, that returns the coordinates of to the polar coordinates and returns the theta value, then 2 degrees, 2 radians, and the random number. Now let's see one by one what is the XXX value. So this method converts the value of the number object that invokes the method to the primitive data type that is returned from the method. This is the byte value function, then short value function, int value function, long value function, float value function, double value function. And this is the details of the parameters. Then return value, this returns the primitive data type in the signature line. This is an example that shows how to use the XXX value. That is a public class text that same class will be used. And public static void main string args integer x equals to 5 that returns the byte primitive data type. Then system.out.println x.byte value. That shows the x.byte value function in system. That then return double primitive data type. Then system.out.println x.double value. Then return long primitive data type. Then system.out.println then x.long. These are the three values that is available. We are initializing the wrapping function, we are initializing the boxing function or boxing value, that is x equals to 5. How I know it is a boxing value? Because it is given in the integer type, it is a boxing value. And the next one is for the byte value, that is a byte primitive data type, then double, why it is using the double value with the long value. For the 5, if it is available for the primitive, that gives the gives the integer value, that is a 5 only. Then for the double, it is using the decimal part 5.0. Then for the long, it is using only the 5, that is a long primitive data type. So it converts the value or that returns the primitive data type that is available in the signature, that is available in the parameters. Next is compare to function. This method or the method that compares a number of objects that invokes the method to the argument, and it is also possible to compare the bytes, long, integer, etc. And there are two different types that cannot be compared with both the arguments and the number of objects that invoke the method that should be of the same type. So we are not comparing with both the arguments and the number of objects that is invoking with the same object with the same data type. This is the syntax for this public int. We are merging the public and the int with the same concept, with the same values, that is the public and int. So public int means that is of the public type and the int data type, and it is combined with the combined as a public int. Then compared to, that is a compare to function. Then number subclass, then reference name. Number subclass in the sense we are using the number subclass as a keyword. Then reference name means the name of the reference, name of the variable, name of the data type, that is a reference name. Now, what are the various parameters that is used in compare to functions? Only one parameter is used, that is a reference name. That may be a byte, that may be a double, that may be an integer. That means we are using any number of the primitive data type in the reference value, the reference name. That may be a byte, that may be a double, integer, float, long, or short. What is the return type of the compare to functions? It returns either as a 0, either as a -1. Sorry, there are three values, 0, 1, and -1. This is one of the example. Public class test, then static void main string args, then integer x equals to 5. This is using the boxing function, that is integer x equals to 5, that is a wrapping function. Then system.out.println x.compare to. So we are using as a x.compare to in the 3. Now 3 is compared with the 5 that are not equal. So it shows the output as a 1. Why? Because the given value is 5 and that is greater than the comparing value, that is 3. 5 is greater than 3. Yeah, correct. So it gives the output as a 1. It gives the output as a 0 when the value is equal. It gives the output as a 1 when the value, that is a wrapping value, is higher than the greater than the argument value. And it gives the value as a -1 if the value that is given is a lesser than the argument value. In the first case, 5 is greater than the 3. It gives the output as a 1. Then in the next case, 5 is equal to the 5. It gives the value as a 0. In the next case, 5 is less than the a. That gives the value as a -1. Nothing is new in this one. Only the new is that we are using the integer x equals to 5. Not we are using the int, double, nothing. But we are using the integer I. Full integer, integer. Imagine for the integer concept, the first character, that is I, will be in the capital letter. That is the integer. Next one is equal function. So this is one of the example of the comparative function. Next function that is used is equal function, that determines whether the number of objects that invoked is equal to the arguments or not. So we are checking for the equality sign. We are checking for the equal functions, whether the two values that are given is equal or not. This topic or this session, or we can say this equals function, I'm going to take in the next class and in the tomorrow's class. Okay. So if there is any doubts, any confusions, you can ask the doubts from me regarding the assignments, regarding the module, regarding this Java module, or any other module. If you have any doubts, you can ask the doubts or clarify the doubts from me. So that's all for today's